Hi, it's me again, still at the beach. You can see behind me, this is pretty much where I was sitting the day before Ella was born. I had been induced less than 24 hours before. Uh, and no, actually, I had been induced that morning. That's what happened. And she was sideways. So the doctors told me, walk, do stairs, go to the beach. It's gonna, and walk at the beach. It's gonna help place her. And, she won't come for probably like 2 or 3 days. And I'm back on duty on Friday, so I'll see you on Friday. Well, Ella being Ella, she showed up less than 24 hours later. My doctor never got to be there for her birth, but all went well, and she appeared to be healthy, which we know now wasn't the case, obviously. And I wanted to say something, though. I'm going to be talking a lot about Ella today, but I will also be sharing some memorials for some of the kids and adults that we've lost. Before I created the organization, and since unfortunately sometimes it's seizures, sometimes it's other complications that do take away loved ones from family members. And so I want to make sure that today, for our themed day for March on PVNH, sorry, that we talk about other angels besides Ella. So I'll be sharing that in a bit. But I also wanted to tell you more about the day that Ella passed away. I know some of you might be nervous about me talking about it, but it was a beautiful day. And it was very serene. I knew it was happening, right? I mean, she had given us a warning, a really big warning, a week before. And it was only a couple of days later that I asked my mom to come to Vancouver to be with us. And so she did. And we had her baptized in the ICU. You might have seen a photo already. And it was a beautiful ceremony done both in French and in English with friends, loved ones. Unfortunately, both of her dad's family and my family weren't there, but our Vancouver family was with us. And then we were surrounded by the staff at the hospital, the nurses, the doctors, respiratory therapists, the specialists. And throughout the ceremony, Mac the Knife was playing in the back. And so you probably know by now that Ella, my daughter, was named for Ella Fitzgerald, the Grand Lady of Jazz. And so, so that's why throughout, I want to say the last 3-4 days before she died, we had Ella Fitzgerald playing in the ICU by her bed all the time. And so those are beautiful memories. Ella ended up passing away at 8:07. And, it was really hard. But at the same time, it was such a beautiful moment because she was in my arms and her dad was with us. And again, we were surrounded by people from the hospital who had just tried so hard to save her. They had never seen a presentation of X-linked PVNH involving lungs before. And so, they had tried to find answers. And unfortunately, at the time, it was 15 years ago, right? There was very little information, if not any published papers about the complications of the lung disease associated with FLNA deficiency with PVNH. And so Ella passed away, as I said, at 8:07, and we stayed in the ICU until 6 o'clock, 6:05 maybe. They had offered for me to do something with Ella, like to do a tradition, and I had talked about the beach many times, but I didn't want to do it on that day. I didn't want to add burden to Ella in her last hours. And so we stayed in the ICU. My mother was there, her dad was there, her godmother, Danielle, was there. And we rocked her. We sang to her. We prayed. Yeah, there was a little bit of praying. And we laughed, as surprising as it may seem. And then so many people from the hospital came to say goodbye to Ella and to hug us and comfort us, me and her dad, my mom and her godmother. And if you followed me for a few years, you may remember that when I was pregnant with Ella, I was followed by, obviously, an OBGYN. And one day I went to see him at his clinic. I can't remember what it was. And I picked up a magazine. I think it was called Urban Baby at the time. And started reading the magazine, just passing time before I saw him. And it so happened there was an article in there of a story with photos of a mother who had lost a child. And this photographer had done photos of the child and the family in black and white, beautiful photos. So touching, so heartfelt, and so sad, but so beautiful all at once. And I remember my heart sinking and my thoughts and my prayers going to that family. And so on that day when Ella passed away, I was offered again what rituals, what did I want to do for Ella on that day. And we did molds of her hands and molds of her feet. And I asked my team, I asked our nurse to call Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. But I didn't want to do it before she had passed away, because again, I didn't want her to be bothered by people just hovering. And so we waited, and around 11 o'clock, our nurse had called the Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep local organization, or, the person that I'd seen in that article, or not that I'd seen, but that had written that article, I guess, to try and find out if there was a local photographer that would be available. And sure enough, I didn't realize this until well after, but the photographer that came was Jane Eaton Hamilton. And Jane was the photographer that had written and done the photos for that story that I had seen in the magazine while I was pregnant. And as I said, I didn't realize that until after. Jane stayed with me, Mom, Danielle, her dad, and Ella for a couple of hours, taking photos of us being a family, of us just loving Ella before we had to say goodbye. And so I created an album with some of the photos, if not, actually it's most of the photos, but I've kept maybe 10, 20 that I haven't shared, and I don't have an intention to share them because they're very private. They're for me, right? But the rest of them are too beautiful, and I want people to know that this isn't an option for them, whether it's before your child passes or if you want to do it after. I know people that have done it both ways, like me. Like I did it after Ella passed away, but I know people that did it before their child passed away, and the result is always the same. It's always beautiful and heartwarming and touching and sad. But there's a light, there's hope, there's glow, there's everything. It touches the heart so deeply. And anyways, so I shared that album once 14 years ago. I've shared one photo every year, which is the one that is usually accompanied by a quote by Maya Angelou. A great soul never dies. A great soul serves other people. And I can't remember the rest, but it's about the service of a great soul. And I think that's what Ella's doing for so many people. And so anyways, I will be sharing that album again today. And yeah, I'll be sharing other memories of my girl during the day. But yeah, this was one this is probably some of my precious memories with some of her toys and teddies and stuff, which I've kept, obviously. But the other thing I wanted to say is I wanted to thank the staff at the hospital again. Again, in line with what they asked me to do in terms of our beliefs and our, how did we want to say goodbye to Ella? I didn't want Ella to be carried out of the ICU to the morgue by anybody else but me. And I didn't want her face to be covered. And it had never been done before. I was told that this is something that they usually don't do. They don't let parents walk children to the ICU themselves, and they hadn't let anyone walk a child who had passed with the face uncovered. And I said, well, this is what I want. And our incredible doctor at the time, actually our doctors, because there was more than one, but they said yes. And so one of the nurses that had taken care of Ella, there was over 100 nurses that took care of Ella, but one of the nurses had given us a blanket that she had made with other people. I'm not sure if they're all other nurses, but with other people in a prayer group. And so we wrapped Ella in that blanket, and her little face was uncovered. And I walked her out with our doctor and a social worker, and we walked out of the hospital. And as we walked out, it was a little bit like right now. There was a little bit of a drizzle, and just as I walked out of the hospital, I started dancing with her, like twirling, like, her in my arms and just slowly twirling, I should say, like this. And so I did. And then I walked her so very slowly to the front of the building where the morgue is. And then I had to say goodbye for that day. And so they took her, and her dad and I did the only thing we knew to do, was to go back to where we had met and where our local family was, which is at the pub, and where Ella was a patron way before she was born. And way after she was born, she would always be with me. We'd go and just hang out with our friends and our family. And so we went to to the pub. And we're surrounded by people that love us and that, take care of us still to this day. And so later today, that's what I'm going to be doing. I do this every year. I spend some time at the pub saying thanks, even though the owner's the same, but the staff, none of them actually knew Ella because they all started working after Ella passed away. But they care and love for Ella just the same. They've done fundraisers for her. And so, yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing later. And then I've decided that she would want me to do something to make me feel good because I've been so sad this week. And it's been so hard this week. And so Mommy's going to make herself happy. And that's going to make Ella happy because I'm going to see a concert. I know it's crazy, but it's going to be good. That's the one thing. The one thing that makes me feel better is music. Music and love and friends and my family. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'll be talking to you again in a bit. And as I said, I'll be sharing the memorial of the people that we've lost. And so thank you for listening. Thank you for being there. Okay. Ciao.